Hi, I'm Malcolm McGrath, cabinet maker, and I'm going to talk to you about different types of cabinet doors. The first thing I want to talk about is a traditional style. This is called a five-piece door. It's called a five-piece door because there's five pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Traditionally, the center panel is made of solid wood, and it's got a profile cut out in the middle of it. Some newer five-piece doors, the center panel is just plywood or some kind of a wood grain material. And this is if you want a classic looking wood door, very traditional style, and it can, because it's made of solid wood, it stains up nicely. You can add glazes and do various antiquing finishes. This one's got like a stain underneath and a wooden, or I should say a solid color on top, and it's sanded off so you can see the grain underneath. This is a traditional door. The advantages of this door are obviously the look, and the disadvantage of this type of cabinet, and if they're well made, they're sturdy, they'll last a long time, and they're also relatively light because you haven't got a lot of heavy material, particle board, things like that in it. The disadvantage of this door is, particularly if you have a solid panel in the middle, that it takes more wood, it is more expensive to produce. So this is going to be a more expensive cabinet door than a lot of other types of cabinet doors. The other advantage, or disadvantage of this type of door, is if you are painting it in a solid color, what you will notice, because there are going to be joints in here, and this is wood and it will always be moving. So you will notice after a year or so, if it's a solid paint color, you're going to get little hairline cracks right here. And that will show, and some people don't like that. That's part of what wood does. It's organic, it's always moving. But some people don't like that, so that's something to consider if you want a solid wood cabinet door. However, if you have the grain showing, then even though you get the hairline cracks, that will blend in with the grain of the wood, so it really doesn't matter. That's part of the character of the door. Similarly, if you have an antique look, you get the hairline cracks there. Again, that's part of the character of the door, so it doesn't matter. A little newer is another type of door, which is just a solid panel door. I wouldn't recommend doing this out of plywood. This is typically done out of particle board. The reason is, if you got a solid slab wooden door made out of plywood, it will bend. So particle board is much more stable. The newer particle boards don't tend to have a problem with off-gassing because there's almost zero or almost no formaldehyde, so they don't stink like particle board used to. I remember 30 years ago, if you put your head inside a particle board cabinet, you could almost pass out, but not anymore. So get it out of a solid particle board. The nice thing about this slab door, it can look very modern, and you can get a really dramatic grain on these. You can get interested. This is cherry, and if you have these slab doors, particularly if you've got a small cabinet shop like my own, you can build a whole wall of cabinets, cut all the doors in a particular section of cabinets from the same piece of wood, so you actually can have the grain running floor to ceiling on a whole wall of cabinets. And some of the grains you can get are quite spectacular. This is sycamore, for example, and I don't know if you can see it on the iPhone there, or on the little camera, but this has a really incredible grain, and this comes through a lot more than it would on other types of cabinet doors. But it's almost like a holograph. I mean, if you turn it, I don't know, you can't even see it, but depending on where you look at it, the grain refracts the light in all kinds of different ways. So it's really dramatic, and you can get that with a solid slab door. And this is from a kitchen that, there again, I had the door panels running floor to ceiling, and you got this incredible grain covering the whole wall. So that's something to think about, a slab door. It's modern. You can do interesting things with the grain. Another type of door, and this is more and more, people going to MDF. MDF is basically it's a high density particle board. I'm going to get a sample here, hang on. There. Sorry, I didn't have that in the room here. This is an unpainted MDF door. This is routed out of a high-density particle board. The technology has been around for a while, but it's getting much better. Initially, when they came out with these doors 20 years ago, they tended to look like a piece of particle board that someone just run a router through. Now the routing technology to make these has become very sophisticated. Essentially they have robots, it's all robotically done. The robot is essentially a giant printer they put on a big sheet of this particle board and it cuts it out, but it cuts it out with such detail that, as you can see, once they're painted, it's very hard to tell the difference between an MDF routed door and a solid wood door, solid wood 5-panel. Because they can get such detail in these corners now that you really don't tell the difference. And so you can actually get a very nice looking door out of the MDF. The advantage and disadvantage of the MDF, it's a little bit heavier, but you don't have any grain, so you can't get away. You can't do these sort of effects where you have antiquing showing through. So you don't have the wood grain. But if you're doing a solid color, this can be a nice alternative. The particle board is low or zero formaldehyde, so there's no off-gassing, no smell, and once it's painted it doesn't matter anyways. The other nice thing about the MDF door is because it's routed out of a solid slab, you never get hairline cracks here. So that's something to consider, that this will never show the hairline cracks. It's very dimensionally stable. It is a little heavier, so it's going to give you, depending on how you do it, there are some particle board doors, I don't have one here, where the entire center panel is routed out, so it's a flat center panel. That's a little lighter, but it is going to be a little heavier than an actual wood door. The other advantage of the routed MDF is that it is cheaper, probably half the price of a solid wood door. So that's something to think about. Any of these doors, depending on, I can do just about any color. It depends on what your cabinet manufacturer is. I spray and finish my doors myself, so I can do just about any color. This is an MDF door that has a little bit of an antiquing glaze on it, and you can do that on any type of MDF door. So that's going to give you an idea. Another type of door I don't do as much of, but this is just an MDF door, which has got what's called, instead of a painted finish, it's got a thermofoil finish. And the thermofoil is essentially a sort of plastic sheet that they melt over the top. This can look interesting on some doors. Sometimes I'm not really convinced that I like the thermofoil finish. The other disadvantage of thermofoil is that when you do get it, because it's not a painted finish or a sprayed finish, when I'm doing a custom kitchen, if I spray the doors, I can spray all the component parts, all the side gables, all the crown moldings, your wine rack, whatever you want. I can spray it in the same finish. If you've got thermofoil, basically you have to order the doors, and all the adjoining components may not match. You will have to sort of match them up as best they can, but it won't necessarily be in exactly the same material. So that gives you an idea of what's available in the various types of doors. A flat slab, you get interesting grain, modern look. Traditional wooden door, you get the wooden look. But if you're doing a paint grade wooden door, you do have little hairline cracks. And the MDF is less expensive, and you don't have the hairline cracks, but you don't have any wood grain to work with, so you just really use it for a solid color door. My only advice is, when you're trying to pick a kitchen, those are the disadvantages, advantages of the different types, and get a picture, print it out, see what you like from the web, and work from that and pick your door according to cost and price and whatever. Okay, thank you, bye.